Barbara, good to talk to you. Thank you for spending some time with us.
My pleasure, Bobby.
We just had a deal on the show. We had a PhD in education come in, and she tested a lot of us for dyslexia, and it was a pretty it was a pretty emotional show because you're talking about we're 4 adults, and 2 of the 4, and again, it wasn't so much a bit as it was a learning experience on the air that ended up being a compelling segment, but 2 of the 4 needed to have what she said was an intermission for dyslexia. And
adults? She tested adults?
Yeah, she tested all because one of the members of the show,
I never heard of such a thing.
Well, we did it. We were like, we want to be tested because Eddie on our show, he was like, I think I might be dyslexic, and I just never had it ever diagnosed as a kid. So she was a PhD in education, and she said, I'll come up and test you guys what I do with kids usually. And so 2 of the 4 of us were diagnosed with dyslexia. Do you have dyslexia?
Of course, but most people find out they have dyslexia when they have children and it's diagnosed in their own children, they recognize themselves. But until they recognize it in themselves as adults, they think they're stupid. That's the damage that's done by dyslexia. Nobody's as enlightened or told that. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you have a different way of learning.
And I'm glad you said that because Amy, who's my co-host here, whenever she found out and she started to see that some of these things that were seemingly easy to others were a struggle to her, not because she didn't know something, it's how she was interpreting it. She started to get emotional and cry because she felt like what you weren't.
I think, there were several layers to it. Some of it was vulnerable doing it on air and like feeling exposed in a way, but also relief because I'm like, oh,
yes,
okay,
there's a lot in your life.
Like this makes sense. Now I get why high school, college, even, going back junior high is such a struggle for me. Mm-hmm. And I did have a narrative, Barbara, that I was, stupid. I mean, there was just times where I thought, well, this is my story in my head and it would loop over and over, even though I would try to do therapy and fight it. But now there's an explanation and now hopefully I can do something about it.
Yeah. How was that for you when you found out you were dyslexic?
Well, initially, when I found out I was dyslexic, I was relieved officially, but I knew I was dyslexic as a kid, or at least I knew I was dumb as a kid. But let me tell you something. It wasn't until I was older that I realized what an advantage it was. It was an advantage being in school early and being made fun of. It was an advantage being rejected and getting over it. It was an advantage in being different than other kids and being okay as an outsider that you didn't fit in. And it was an advantage in growing you up really fast. But fortunately, I had a secret weapon, which was my mom, who told me, you can't read, don't worry about it, but you have a wonderful imagination and you'll fill in all the blanks. And she was right. I mean, she built up the part of me that was the gift of dyslexia, my imagination, which is definitely a gift. And with that, I was able to really create ideas, businesses, people, see things differently than other people. You have so many gifts as a dyslexic adult, especially if you're building a business, because you can recognize talented people. You have more empathy in people. You know how to read a situation because you're intuitive much more than the average learner. There's so many advantages, and you're accustomed to being an outsider. And in business, that turns into an innovator, which has been my greatest gift.
Which I'm so thankful that you're on with us today because we just had this. We had a lot of parents that were listening where they're having to address this with their kids.
I got to ask you, what question she asked?
So they did. It was like a 4-part. It took us a while. It took us a whole hour. One of the parts was there was an entire sheet and there were like 200 letters and numbers, but some of them were just backward. And you had to go through, you had 90 seconds to circle as many that were backward as possible. Oh. And so that was a part of it. There was
the reading
part of different words.
That was
how embarrassing. That's the worst part.
That's when I cried, Barbara.
Yeah, that's when she cried.
You should cry because it runs so deep. That's sore.
And so many parents, I'm glad you're here because you're wildly successful and you're someone who was dyslexic and found the advantage to it because you did have to approach things differently and in a way that other people hadn't. And when you pave a new way, that's often what leads to success.
Yeah. If you're dyslexic, the right field for you to go in is to be an entrepreneur. My businesses that I've invested on Shark Tank, I always look for the losers as kids, the kids that got judged hard by their parents or teachers and didn't think they were going to go anywhere. If I get a loser in my portfolio, they always become the winners. They try hard. They have something to prove. It's their forte. They're out in the real world. They get specialized in one thing and they do it better than anybody else. Dyslexics are the way to go if you want to make money in business, in entrepreneurship, that is. In a corporate environment, forget about it. You don't get promoted. You have to learn like other people learn.
I want to talk about Barbara in Your Pocket because it's so cool. Yeah. And it's, you know, my wife subscribes to a few different people on Patreon. And so you're doing Barbara in Your Pocket on Patreon so people can actually come on as part of it and do live Q&As with you?
Of course. You know why it's so important? Because entrepreneurs within starting out, they might look like they know what they're doing. They start out that way, but in short order, they start doubting themselves. What I think you need more than the actual hardcore business advice, like how to get the money, how to manage your cash flow, how to manage your day, all those topics I address. But you know, the one I address the most is how do you believe in yourself? How do you feel like you're entitled to be rich? You're entitled to make something of yourself. You're entitled to show off and say, look what I've done. And it comes harder to women even than men, but everybody struggles with that. Entrepreneurs need a lot of help. And usually they start out as a party of one. They don't have a sounding board. Their doubts are quiet. They don't want to bring them up and they don't want to admit failure and they don't like to ask for help. I shove my help at them, trying to anticipate what they're going to do, listen to their question, then really read behind the question and give them the right answer that they can move forward. I think it's so essential. You know, not everybody has a mentor. I'm a good mentor. I know how to build businesses and it's easy for me to rip off and tell them what they ought to be doing. And the really good ones always listen and execute right away. I'm just crazy about it. I think it makes a big difference.
You guys can go to barbarainyourpocket.com, and she has this Patreon community that you can subscribe to. With Shark Tank, season 15, do you ever feel like, I just invested in a whole lot of businesses, I'm good, but you got to go back and do the show?
Wait, what was your question again, Bobby?
Are you good on businesses? Have you invested in so many you don't even know what you've invested in anymore now that you're 15 seasons in?
Listen, this is all that's important. You have to remember the good businesses that you invested in. The ones that didn't make it, you write right off. You know what I have in my office? I have all the pictures of every entrepreneur I ever invested in. And when I don't think they have the talent or they're a victim and feel sorry for themselves, I see that in the progress along the way or lack of progress. I turn that picture upside down. So I always know when somebody's calling me and wants help, wants me immediately, I look at the wall and see, are they upside down when I forget? And I talk to the people that are right side up because they're my winners.
Amy has a question for you that she was nervous about asking. I don't know what the question is going to be.
Amy is nervous? I doubt it.
Yes, she is nervous because she has a vulnerable question, but you can have it if you want to ask it.
Oh, yeah. No, typically I'm not to speak on anything, but I was married for 17 years and got a divorce last year. I never handled finances in our marriage at all whatsoever. I didn't even know how to log into our bank accounts. Not proud of that. But I obviously the last several months have had no choice but to get heavily involved. And we have 2 kids. I wanted to stay put in the house that we're in. But, you know, the real estate market got a little crazy and our house went up a significant amount. So I was buying him out of our house at the highest amount possible. It's even gone. Timing. Yeah, it was horrible timing, actually, especially for what we bought it for. So yay him. But I'm the one that chose to stay there. And then, you know, he went and bought a different house. So this is just us splitting it 50-50. But I took out a HELOC to get the cash to do that. And because I wasn't involved and I wasn't paying attention, I just kind of thought, oh, well, I need a lot of cash. I'll do this. And it was at 8%. And now that I'm involved, Barbara, I am sitting down and I'm looking at numbers. And in my mind, for months, I have been paying towards this HELOC, but because it's at 8%, I realized it hasn't budged at all. So I've been paying towards the interest, and I don't know if I just was doing what I needed to do to survive at the moment, or if there's another road for me, or what I should do, or if you have any advice on how to get it down.
Just a different way of looking at it. 10 years from now, you're going to look at yourself and say, thank God I bought the house, because you're looking at value now, what it was in the past. Your memory is your deficit. You can't help but to measure against what's come before. It gets in the way of me investing in properties. I think, gee, I should have gotten that building last year for $100 million and a half, and now I have to pay $2 million. Why would I want to do that? The new kid on the block comes in and pays the $2 million, makes a fortune 5, 10 years from now when it's worth 7 million, So your deficit is that you're comparing it to what you bought before. But in 10 years, 5 years, that housing market is going to go crazy across the board and you'll be making more money. About the interest rates and not paying down your principal so well, that's the way loans work. They hardly pay down the principal for the first 5 years. You're killing yourself. It's mostly interest you're paying. You can't change that. And you're only paying 1% more than the current market. Can you refinance it? 1% makes about a 10% difference in your monthly payment. Would that make a life change for you? You might be obsessing over something that isn't as important as you think it is. What do you say about that?
Oh, I feel a lot of comfort hearing you say that, because I think now that I'm just new to getting involved, and I'm thankful that my mortgage in this HELOC it's my only debt at the moment. So I'm just gonna take your advice. Yeah, and I can. So yeah, thank you for that. That's comforting to hear. Like, I don't need to obsess over it, but I am proud of myself for being involved.
Next time you get married, make sure you do a prenup. And if you forget about it, then do a postnup after you get married. That's very important for women.
Or doing both, Amy. You should do them both, a pre and a post.
A postnup is a thing?
It's post-nuptials.
I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I just never heard of anybody doing a postnup.
Barbara does one every week. New one every week.
Both my husbands.
Eddie, you have a question for Barbara.
I do. Barbara, so I have a smoking chicken business called Producer Eddie's Smoking Hot Chicken. And by business...
Cool name.
Thank you. Thanks. See, she likes it. And by business, I mean I just kind of make really, really good smoked chickens, sell it to my friends and family, basically. I want to turn this into
a hobby and a business, maybe, huh?
Totally, yes. And I want to make this into a legit business, but everyone I talk to is like, man, food is really dangerous. Like, it's just really risky to go in on food. What is your opinion on going into a food business?
Oh, listen, my best investments are all food businesses. I love the individuals that run them because they're usually caring people that want to feed people. They're nice people, and they just do business well and have people respond well to them. So forget about a food business being a bad business. They're profitable. I think the hard thing is going to be from you to move from your family and friends, figure out your cost, your hard cost really well, your shipping costs, figuring out how to get online, figuring how to advertise it, which eats away at your profit. But if you can figure that model out, why not try it? What do you want to do? You want to be an old guy 10 years from now and you want to say, I wish I should have, could have? No, you want to try it and push it as fast as you can. I mean, it's a good name. If it's a good recipe, other people are going to like it, unless all your family and friends are lying to you. Are they lying?
I don't think so.
No,
Bones.
that's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right. Go for it.
Three final questions for Barbara Corcoran, which, by the way, go to barbarainyourpocket.com and you can see all about her new Patreon community where you can do live Q&As with her and so much more. Lunchbox, a question for Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank.
Yeah, so there's businesses you pass on the show. Are you allowed to, outside of the show, to keep following them and then approach them later if you say, you know what, I made a mistake, and go after that business?
It's a great theory, but let me tell you, the minute that door closes and that business is out the door, I never think about them again. I mean, there was one business in season 1, believe it or not, that has stuck with me, but the people have long passed away, which I did pursue after the fact. It was 2 old people having underwear lined with charcoal that if they had gas, you couldn't smell the gas. I thought, what a stupid business, but it's haunted me for years thinking, gee, that's a great business. Who wants to be smelly all the time? But those people are long gone. That's the only one, I swear. Usually they're gone. There's so much on Shark Tank. So many businesses walk through the door. So many new opportunities that you can't really regret anything that you've passed on.
Final 2 questions for you, Barbara. With Mark Cuban leaving, how do you feel about that, and how's it going to affect the show?
Brokenhearted. He's big shoes to fill. They're going to really have to hunt to get somebody to fill his shoes. Mark, if you realize it, has so much going for him. Number 1, he's got $1 billion. The rest of us are millionaires. Having $1 billion means he buys a lot more business, a lot more activity. That's 1. He's got a big personality. He's a lovely man. What you see is what you get. He's sincere when he works with businesses. He really helps them. Mark is golden. I wish I had married him when I met him, but he was already married because I could still have my hooks in the guy. I sit next to Mark. He does all my math. That's very helpful. As a dyslexic, I can't add things up. I say, hey, Mark, tell me, how's this? What percentage is this? And he always does my math for me. No, I'm going to miss him dearly, but the show will go on. but it's not going to be an easy time replacing Mark Cuban.
Final question for you, Barbara. And by the way, everybody, check out Shark Tank Fridays nationwide, ABC at 8, 7 Central. And again, barbarainyourpocket.com, which is a Patreon community with exclusive content and exclusive access to Barbara Corcoran. My question would be with you and your organization, how many unread texts and emails do you have currently, and do you have a rule about unreading them all by a certain point?
Before I go to bed at night, I'm one of these phobic people. I have to read everything. I just can't go to bed without answering stuff. So I read hundreds and hundreds, but I'm really good at it with my one-figure typing, and I've learned how to have short responses.
And do you have 40 or 50
by
that
the
are
way.
just red dotted throughout the day? Like on your email right now, will there be 100 right now if you don't check it for an hour, or 1,000?
Oh, I don't have my phone here, but I would say 30, maybe. I'm guessing. That's almost noontime, right? 30. That's not so bad, right?
That's not a lot of spam. Yeah, mostly it's all spam for me.
I have
Okay.
so many blocks in place, really. Okay.
Well, I just thought of a bonus question
Okay.
that it might be something like you would see on Barbara in Your Pocket. And it's an idea that just popped in my head about my loan, Bobby. Because the bank is 8%. Do you want to loan me the money at 3%?
No.
You ask him, Bobby, I could tell looking at him he's cheap. He's not going to give you the money.
No, not at 3. I'll give it to you at 7.5.
Well, but how do you feel about friends loaning friends money?
Bad idea. You know, you have to decide what's more important, getting the money, the discount, the deal, or losing a friend. In my mind, losing a friend takes a lot more energy to replace them, if ever you really do it, than losing money. I lose money any day. The biggest problem I have being an individual that's positioned as someone with a lot of money is everybody's got a $10,000 problem every day of the week. You know, I used to loan people money all the time. Now, if I have a family or friend or some relation in some way wants $10,000, I give it as a gift because I do not want to lose the friend. When you lend money to a friend, what happens is the equation is off balance. You know, you're the superior person who did the lending, and the person who got the money, as nice as they are, they'll resent it. It ruins the friendship. I've never seen it succeed.
All right, Barbara, thank you. Everybody check out barbarainyourpocket.com. Bye, Barbara.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's about